Hello everyone, my name is Marco Landry, and today I will not be talking about my Yamaha R3, but instead I'll be talking about my 2012 Ducati 848 Evo. A few days ago, it was a beautiful day. I was going to go for my first ride of the season, unplug the bike from the smart charger, which you can see above there. Sat on the bike, turned the key on, display was activated right away. I tried to crank the engine. I could hear the solenoid clicking, but the engine wasn't cranking. I looked at the voltage of the battery. It was at 11.6, which is way too low. So I knew the battery was done. So in the next few minutes, what I'm going to show you is how to activate the battery, charge the battery, remove the fairing, install the battery, and after that, we'll go for a ride. So let's get started. As I mentioned earlier, I'll be replacing the battery, and in my case, I have the Yuasa bottle supplied option and not the factory activated battery, which means that I will need to mix the electrolytes in order to properly activate the battery. So in this case, when you receive the battery, you will see that you have some hardware, you have the electrolytes, and you have the battery itself. Whenever you do this, you always want to wear some gloves because this can be very nasty, and also wear some eye protection as well. So I'll wear my protective glasses in a few minutes. Get your bottles or your electrolytes out, and it's a fairly easy process overall. You have the instruction here as well, and what you want to do when you're doing this is that the first step will be to remove that protective foil from the battery. So remove the protective foil, and then you will remove the cap from the electrolyte bottles, and do not discard these caps because we will reuse this to seal the filling port on the battery once everything is nice and full. So once this is done, you have these little cap of foils here that will prevent the liquid from falling down. You just simply turn it upside down, line up the holes, and you just simply tap it and it will puncture those holes. And just make sure there's some bubbles coming through, which means that the air is bubbling up and the liquid is coming down. So that's probably going to take about 20 minutes to totally empty itself into the battery. So leave it there, don't force it, do not squeeze this, just let it go. It's going to take probably about 20 minutes, and in 20 minutes I'll be back and we will seal this up, and we'll proceed next step. It took about 20 minutes and the container is now totally empty. So we're just going to gently lift this up, make sure we don't drip any liquid anywhere, and we'll discard this in a few minutes. And the next step will be to put the cap on the filling ports on top, and just be very gentle with this. You don't want to just bang it, you just want to press it with your fingers until it's nice and flush. So we'll let the battery sit now for 60 minutes minimum to let the electrolyte permeate or diffuse. And once this is done, I'll put the charger on, and we'll get closer to going for a ride. All right, so now everything is all set. The battery has been sitting here for about an hour and 30 minutes. And now it's ready to be charged. So I'm just going to use the clamps, and I'll connect it to my charger, which is a few feet away, which is mounted on the wall. That's why you can't see it here, but we'll connect everything. We'll let the battery fully charge, and after that we'll be ready to mount it on the bike. So you can see here that my battery is on port number 4. So it's flashing at 25% now. It will ramp up fairly quickly to probably about 75%, and after that the rest of the battery will be charged for probably a couple of hours before it's ready. So we'll leave it there like this, and I'll be back in a couple of hours. The battery is charging now. It's almost done, and while it's still charging, I'll start removing the fairing. In order to remove the fairing, you have to remove the 3 bolts here, and there's one underneath in the front with 2 plastic rivets. Then you'll need to remove some of the bolts underneath. I believe there's 2 or 3. There's one behind the kickstand, this one that's holding the bodywork on the frame, and I'll finish by the 2 bolts holding the bodywork on top of the frame. So all the bolts have been removed, so now I'll just put the kickstand down so it's a bit easier, and that should come right off. In my case, I always leave this pigtail for the charger on, so I don't have to remove the fairing every single time I'm trying to charge the bike. You can see it has been zip tied, so I'm just going to cut off the zip tie. So we simply have to remove this Allen bolt to remove the battery cover. And now the battery is ready to be removed, so I'm just going to take my Phillips screwdriver, unplug the negative first, the positive, then we'll add the new battery. So the battery is fully charged now. At least the charger indicated that it was fully charged. So before I put it on, I'm still going to measure the voltage, just make sure it's okay. Yeah, it looks like we have 13.15 volts. So that should be perfect. Before I reassemble the battery, I decided I was going to modify that battery compartment a little bit. And I drilled a small hole here, and I also drilled one here on that bracket so that when I put this here like this, I can safety wire this together, because quite often when this gets really warm, it has a tendency to pop out like this. I didn't really like that, so I figured I would just reinforce this a little bit, and I'll safety wire, I'll zip tie these 2 parts together at the bottom. So it's going to be properly secure at the top with the bolt, and it will be properly secure at the bottom with the zip tie. When you're drilling, if you decide to do the same thing, make sure that you pull this wire out here so that you don't damage it while you're drilling. You just simply pull it out and drill on top, and that should be fine. And this is plastic, so it's fairly easy to drill. All right, so now we will install the new battery. Make sure that you have the right terminals on the right side as well when you do so. And we'll add the positive first. And now we will connect the negative terminal. So now we're ready to reassemble. So before I put the cover on, I'll just slide in my zip tie, and I'll slide it in that second hole as well. Make sure that you take a zip tie that's going to be long enough so you have enough room to maneuver properly. I'm just going to push this here, make sure that it sits in properly. And now I'm just going to secure this here at the top of the bracket so that this little pigtail stays in place all the time. And it's going to be easy to access from the side fairing or on the top of the side fairing. So there's a small opening, and you can just simply grab this, and you don't have again to remove the fairings. Just find it convenient, and it doesn't have any overall negative impact on the look of the bike or the performance of the bike. So it's not a big deal to leave it there. Okay, so now we're just gonna make sure that the bike starts properly before we continue. that we know that everything starts properly, I'm going to start the reassembly process. We'll do the same process as earlier, but in the reverse fashion. That's it for today, folks. That was the process of filling, activating, charging, and replacing the battery on your 848 Evo. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below or connect with me on social media. I'm always happy to hear about your questions or your feedback. If that video was helpful, please smash that like button. And that's a wrap for today, guys. So be safe, ride safe, and we'll see you soon. Take care.